In the middle of tremendous darkness and personal tragedy, false lights are trying to guide us, and they can bring shipwreck. We must be focused on God's pathways and His light in the storms of life. Christ is the light of navigation. Hello, and welcome again to the Light of Navigation and this Reflections podcast. My name is Marguerite Lever-Woodall. I'm an author, speaker, and your host. In these podcasts, I love to explore and contemplate different life issues and their possible solutions through the lens of God's wisdom and words. Seeking His wisdom on life's issues is the best path possible. In this fourth episode, called Where the Good Things Are, I share about a supernatural life review that occurred and how it brought tremendous freedom for me. It was life-changing, and that's an understatement. Will you join me in giving thought on the tough issues of life and discover God's pathway through it all? Have you ever wondered where the good things are? I think some of us come to the place where we've wondered if any good thing has ever been a part of our lives. Sometimes all we can see is what was not and could have been, as well as what is not now. It's as though all we remember are the abuses, tragedies, accidents, and failures that have been a part of our life journey. As I was driving home from work one evening in the silence of my car, I was talking to God. In reflecting on my life, I felt so empty and void of having any positive movement of God's presence and direction for some time. Those feelings were coupled with the thoughts of a life that had been filled with seemingly nothing but criticism, verbal abuses, and hardships. And yes, I was feeling sorry for myself. It was then that I shouted out loud in the car, "Is this as good as it gets, Lord? Is this it?" I continued shouting this question out several times at God as I drove home. I was mad. At the age of 14, I had tried to reach out to my dad one last time to connect with him as his daughter. After many years of trying to gain his approval, instead, what I received was the usual criticism of a supposed failure on my part. This had happened over and over again for most of my life. I turned slowly away from him in the middle of our conversation, walked into my bedroom, laid down on my bed, and out loud cursed the hope that I had had in even trying to reach out to him. Depression entered my life at that moment, and I could tangibly feel its presence. I had decided that hope was an enemy. It was then that a darkness entered my life in a greater way. After the rant in my car, God brought something to my remembrance that He had shown me years before. In my early 30s, I had just begun to follow Christ with much more intent and purpose. During this season of my life, I remembered when I took a nap in the afternoon one summer day. As I slept, I was swept away in a dream about those very troubled teenage years of mine. In the dreaming, a supernatural life review of those years began. God's Spirit began to reveal a great darkness, the darkness of rejection and relational abandonment by my dad during that time period. It was all around me as I dreamt, and it felt like it was closing in on me. This darkness was massive, and I could see no light. I was terrified, and I cried out in the room as I slept, "Lord, please stop showing me this. It's more than I can bear, and I'm afraid." It was in that moment, after I cried out, that the dreaming suddenly changed. I was remembering and viewing good things that I had had in my life at that time. God was peeling back the darkness as the dreaming continued once again. I was swept up in an awesome, joyful recall of memories during those years that I had long forgotten. God was thoughtfully parading each scene in front of me in sequence. The darkness had overshadowed and hidden them from my memory all those years. At the time, our family lived at the Wallowa Lake Resort area in eastern Oregon. At Wallowa Lake, the spring and summers were busy with vacationing tourists thronging the area. As the Lord guided me further through the dreaming, I saw my favorite shirt that I love to wear, that I had not thought of in 30 years. It was a white and purple striped tank top, and the colors stood out and were incredibly vivid. Then I saw my favorite bell-bottom jeans, and they were all the style then. You could hear the jeans material flap loudly as I walked down the road. There were also the athletic shoes that I had saved my money for. The white suede shoes were styled with a patriotic flag theme. The red, white, and blue flag design was on both sides. They were my Peter Fonda Easy Rider style shoes. I loved those shoes. The memory of my 10-speed bike that made me feel like I was riding the wind came into view. I had saved my money for this too for some time. Then I saw Willie, my horse, that I had spent countless hours riding. We traversed the wilderness trails together around the lake area, the summer cabins with the large lake lodge, and also the river flowing from the mountains to the west. Willie was my escape from the volatile home environment during the day, and it gave me a wonderful sense of freedom for a time when I needed it the most. Then there was Russell's hamburger joint down the road, which was the source of the best milkshakes, ice cream cones, or hamburgers you could get. And the roller skating rink just across from Russell's was built in a large log cabin motif with wood floors and was an evening gathering place for every tourist in the area of all ages. You could see the dust roll out of the rink's log windows at night in the lamplight from the enthusiastic skaters. I loved skating nightly there. There was the large lake lodge, which was the stuff that movies are made of, and a marina with canoes and paddle boats for rent during the day as well as fishing for anyone who cared to try their luck. Many a summer day was passed swimming in the lake or just laying out in the sun for a while on the local water docks that dotted the shoreline. This life review, as I dreamt, ended with a final memory and scene of the haze of smoke from the tourist campfires in the evenings. It would hover over the area's tree line as they cooked their meals. The smell of roasting hamburgers and hot dogs filled the air, and it would drift past our cabin 2 miles up the road. I was shocked to have remembered these minor things from over 25 years ago, and in such incredible detail. They had long been forgotten. It was then that the dreaming stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The Lord had placed my family and I in an area that was one of His greatest jewels geographically. It was like living in Yellowstone Park year-round, and Wallowa Lake is known to this day as the Little Switzerland of America. The fall season was stunning in color contrasts between shades of evergreen and orange. The mountains shouted out his greatness as the creator. The winters were just as awesome, with the deep, thick snow that covered everything like a comforting blanket that settled for a time. Its beauty was awesome, and I realized in those moments that this wonderful place was a gift from him in the midst of the abuse and darkness that pressed into my life. How blessed I was. He was there even in the middle of every dark moment. He had placed me there in my life journey for a reason. There were good things all around me that he had given me even when I did not know him. I learned that afternoon as I slept that he is the God of my past. He is the God who is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He had made sure that there were many good things that were a part of my life during those years to counterbalance and buffer against the darkness and its chaos. And I am grateful for all those things. The brief review the Lord walked me through in those moments as I slept also opened the door to more contemplation and reflection of those years in the months that followed. There were many other good things that were present during that time of my life that I had not thought about or really appreciated before. I began to see those years in their entirety from God's viewpoint, not my own. And my memories were profoundly different from that moment on because my perspective had changed too. A deepening thankfulness for what God had given me during that time began to grow in my heart. That darkness in my memories that I had felt for many years, whenever I reflected on them, was strangely gone. And it didn't matter anymore. His light is all I can see now when I recall those years. I had been set free from the darkness during the dream, and an even greater gift came into my life after that: a thankful heart. A thankful heart enters into his presence every time. No matter how desperate our lives may seem, or how abusive the life journey has been, there are good things that God places along the way. He dances in our lives with the little things that are so special. They're easy to miss because we don't realize that he gives the everyday things that are a true blessing. A favorite shirt, a bicycle, a horse to ride, maybe new shoes, or a good friend that walks with us. We often miss them because we expect the spectacular and obvious ones instead. Darkness begins to leave our lives when we adopt a thankful heart, even in the middle of it all. God does not fix things, though he could, but rather in life storms when they come, he's watching to see if we will draw close to hear his heartbeat and believe that he has placed good things there just for us. Those things, they may be small, but they remain. I saw that his love placed them in my life to let me know that in the middle of the greatest hardships, he was there. You know, it's funny how all those seemingly minor gifts or good things can bring a fond smile and joy to my face when I think of them, even now. But wait, there's more to my story. As I woke up from my sleep, I sensed God's loving presence filling my room, and a thick smell had supernaturally filled my entire bedroom. I was astonished as I breathed it in. It was pungent, distinct, and unmistakable. It was the smell of campfires, cooking hot dogs, and hamburgers. In Psalm 103, verse 2 through 5, it says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits, who pardons all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with loving kindness and compassion, who satisfies your years with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagle." Thank you for taking time to listen today. If someone you know needs to know that God is the God of their past, present, and future, please pass this story on. As always, your comments are valued, and subscribing would also be deeply appreciated. In the next episode of Reflections, called The Last Thanksgiving, I'll be sharing how this special time of year is my personal favorite and has given me much to think about. This holiday can be so special, yet be bittersweet for some as well.